This article comes from The Guardian by Patrick Wintour. Trump's UN speech makes it clear the world can no longer look to the U.S. for strong leadership. Such is the gravitational pull cast by Donald Trump and the U.S. economy that the politics of the other 192 countries that make up the United Nations are rapidly being reduced to one long discussion about how to relate to and challenge this ever darker and weirder presidency. Before Trump's extraordinary 58-minute speech on the supposed threats posed by open borders, Sharia law, and the UN's failings and the climate hoax. The supporters of the UN's values already knew they faced a challenge. Now they realize the degree to which the world's superpower seems bent on destruction of everything they believe. He did not hold back. So it's just, we are completely isolated now. That's official. Immediately after the shocked and even embarrassed UN delegates had recovered from Trump's performance, the General Assembly was addressed by leaders of two large Muslim states, the Indonesian president and the Turkish president. Subianto was strongly applauded when he asserted, quote, "Might cannot be right. Right must be right. No one country can bully the whole of the human family. We may be weak individually, but the sense of oppression and injustice will unite us into a strong force that will overcome this injustice." Too bad we're not on that side, huh? Immediately prior to Trump's address, the Brazilian president, without mentioning the U.S., had given a sophisticated warning about the threat posed by the new authoritarians. Quote, "Today, the ideals that inspired the UN's founders in San Francisco are under threat as never before in their history. Multilateralism is at a new crossroads. This organization's authority is in check. We are witnessing the constellation of an international order marked by repeated concessions to power play. Attacks on sovereignty, arbitrary sanctions, and unilateral interventions are becoming the rule." It's true. That's the norm now, and it's not just the U.S. anymore. There is a clear parallel between multilateralism's crisis and the weakening of democracy. Authoritarianism is strengthened when we fail to act in the face of arbitrary acts, when international society falters in defending peace and sovereignty. Anti-democratic forces are trying to subjugate institutions and stifle freedoms. They worship finance, they praise ignorance, and act as physical and digital militias and restrict the press. And this is the story across the world now, right? The U.S., China, Russia, Hungary, the list just goes on and on. Others, such as South Korea president, insisted that climate crisis was far worse. So Trump called the climate crisis a hoax. Told everybody that they got to stop paying attention to it. Apparently, insisted that the climate crisis was far from being a hoax. It represented a threat to global humanity. Of course, it does. Yet the Trump speech also made even more stark and urgent the unavoidable question of how the world will operate in the absence of reliable American leadership. This is not just a question for the global South, but also for Europe as it confronts Russia, for Asia as it wrestles with Chinese power, and for the Gulf as it grapples with Israel's military dominance. One response is the alliance of autocrats on display in Beijing at the beginning of the month, led by Xi and Putin. This is just so sad.